From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's Women at the Wheel.
Hello and welcome to the Women at the Wheel podcast. I'm Emma Henderson, managing editor of Aftermarket News, and with me today is Rebecca Conway. She's the Vice President of U.S. and Canada Aftermarket Marketing for Clarios. Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, great. I'm doing well. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a chilly one right now. So let's get started. I have some questions for you. Obviously, you have already been an honoree for the Women at the Wheel. And you've also been in the aftermarket for about 15 years now. I'd love to hear the story about how you ended up in this industry and why you stick around.
I like to say that I dreamt of, as a young girl, growing up and selling car batteries, but that is absolutely not how my career path ended up where it is. I started actually after college in market research in consumer packaged goods. And I did that for a while. And then I saw an opportunity at Johnson Controls at the time, and they were really building out their category management team. And I wanted to move from kind of the market research supplier side to more of the manufacturer side. So I literally applied for a job to be a category manager. Our category management team helps our customers really be successful. It's a lot of market research, data analytics, and working with our customers to define strategies. So I applied for a job, I got the job, and that was almost 15 years ago. Since then, I've had a great career. Again, been with the company almost 15 years with roles across category management, global marketing, global strategy, sales, and then now leading aftermarket marketing for Clarios.
Absolutely. That's quite a journey. And so we talked about this a little bit before. And one thing that you mentioned is that there have been times when you were the only woman in the room. And I'm wondering if you have any advice for women who feel intimidated in that moment.
Yeah. So first off, I would say it is totally normal and natural to feel intimidated. That has been a position I've been in many times in my career. And quite candidly, I'm still in that position fairly often. I think the one thing you can do, I always like to say, fake it until you make it. I think a lot of times as women, we downplay our skills and we kind of get in our heads a little bit, but make sure you're just be confident and know that you have every right to be at the table. You are there for a reason. And I just want people to really recognize the fact that, they have a seat at the table, they should be there, and then be confident. And I also think about sometimes, like, if you are the only woman there, why, it's you. Why shouldn't it be you? You can be one that can set an example and really lead the industry forward. So going forward, you're not just the only woman in the room.
So use that moment to shine and show, hey, maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe there should be other people like me in this room as well.
Yeah, and absolutely. I would say another thing too is like be yourself. That is one thing I've prided myself on throughout my career is to be open and transparent about who I am. I am a mom, I am a wife, I am a sister, I'm a very empathetic leader. And so sometimes I feel like those are maybe things that aren't as common in some of our leadership, positions in our industry. But again, to me, my goal is to be my authentic self, to really show an example that you can really be yourself, and that's okay.
Absolutely. And so you were one of our 2024 Women at the Wheel honorees. And I was reading through your submissions when I was coming up with these questions. One thing that really stuck out to me was the advice that you had in your write-up. So I'm hoping you can expand upon it because I think it's something a lot of us need to hear. You say more women need to apply for jobs even without 100% of the qualifications, because we underestimate ourselves. So how did you learn this, and why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing, if you look at, there's actually research on this. So women tend to not apply for a role unless they meet 100% of the requirements. Men, on the other side, apply for a role when they only meet about 60%. So naturally, we are inclined to kind of underestimate or undervalue our skill set. I had an experience in my career about 10 years ago. I had a female leader in our company who advocated for me to apply for a job, and she really pushed for me, quite honestly, to get the job. And I did not have these skills and the profile of someone who would traditionally have this role. I was moving into a global strategy role. I was coming from the business. Most people in those roles had a background working for like a consultant company. I didn't. But she really knew I could do a good job. And she's like, Rebecca, go for this job. You can do it. And that was a really pivotal moment for me because that really gave me the confidence that even if I didn't have all the skills on paper that was, quote, required for a job, I knew that I could work hard. I'm passionate. I'm curious. And I would, honestly do a good job. And that was a really, really important moment in my career. I think we as women need to be intentional about encouraging women to apply for roles. Again, we naturally underestimate our skill set. So as a leader in the organization, how can you identify, women who are talented and have discussions about their career path? And when you see an open role, say, hey, why aren't you applying for that job? And when they say, well, I haven't done this, this, and this, I don't meet these qualifications, remind them that they are probably just as qualified as anyone else who's applying for that job. I really think that this is what we need to do to reach kind of the gender equality goals we have as an industry.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
I'm curious, I'm going a little off script right now, but are there any organizations that you've been a part of or that you've seen in the industry that have been really helpful with that?
I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, obviously, Women in Auto Care. That is a tremendous group of women that I've connected with. And I have met some women in that group who are really good mentors and just, feedback loops. And I can have an open and honest conversation about challenges I'm having. And I'd encourage everybody to get involved, whether it be with Women in Auto Care or women's organizations within your community, to find a place to have a safe space to have conversations, because I understand sometimes there's not someone in your own company you want to have those conversations with. I'm part of an organization called Tempo, which is a women's leadership group in Milwaukee. I have a group of women I meet with on a monthly basis, and we are across academia and financial services and healthcare, all different industries. And so there I'm able to ask these questions to people who have no idea what the automotive world is like, but really, seeking out areas to have those conversations and have a sounding board just to get your ideas across.
That's a great idea. I feel like definitely that sounding board can be invaluable, especially if you're having a rough day or there's like one or two things that you really want to work on, but maybe work isn't the best place to figure out how to work on those skills.
Yeah. And one thing I found is that the more women I talk to, we have a lot of common experiences, and finding those women, someone's probably have gone through the same thing you've gone through in the past, and they probably have some good advice based on their experience and probably can recommend, some resources and things for you to, kind of work through things.
Absolutely. And to me, would be considered a leader in this space. You were actually just honored by MEMA Aftermarket Suppliers with the DEI Leader Award. So I'm curious what that moment meant to you and how can other women become diversity, equity, and inclusion leaders at their own companies?
Yeah. So first, when MEMA informed me that I won the award, step one, I was very, very surprised. I was shocked. When I talked to MEMA, my number one thing I said is that I don't think I'm doing anything above and beyond and special. I view, my role as a female leader in this company or in this, industry in my company to really advocate for women. So it was, a true honor, to be recognized by MEMA. And I think sometimes you think of this as, some big grand thing that you can do, but I think there's a lot of really small little steps you can take. First, I would encourage people to get involved in women's organizations. I will say that we all are extremely busy, and I know at times it feels like you don't have time for something else on your plate. I get it. But I will say be very intentional in setting aside that time for your personal development. So whether that be Women in Auto Care or a different women's organization, prioritize it, make the time for it. That's step one. That's going to give you a lot of tools and resources. And then within your own company, I think there's really small things. If your company has a women's network, get involved in that. If it doesn't, see if you could be part of a group that starts one. We recently started our women's network at Clarios, and that is something, really fantastic. And as soon as you bring it up, there's so many women that say, yes, I'd love to be part of it, love to be part of it. It really takes someone to just kind of step up and lead it. And if that seems like kind of too much, I would encourage everyone just create a small network, a little group of women that you can talk to at your organization. And really, it can kind of be your quote informal women's network. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can all kind of step up and be DEI advocates at our company. But just know that even if it's something little, it absolutely makes a big difference.
That's definitely one thing I noticed. So this year at Apex, it was my first time going. And it was incredible to see how many women just immediately supported each other after literally meeting you for the first time, like 5 minutes later. They weren't part of an organization necessarily, although a lot of them advocated for women in auto care. But they would be there for you. They'd answer questions. They'd add you on LinkedIn, simple things like that to make you feel less alone and add to your network.
Yeah. Yeah. I have found the women in the automotive industry have been very welcoming. It is a tremendous group of women, and I will say that they will absolutely advocate for you, be your friend, be your mentor. There's been times I've, needed support. I know I've had, colleagues who've been looking for new roles, and they really step up. So I would encourage you, walk up to a woman at any kind of automotive event, and I guarantee you're going to get a very, warm and welcoming reception.
Absolutely. And I think, for people like me who are relatively new, to see other women like you who have a vice president role or a leadership role, that can also be very inspiring because it's like, okay, well, I'm just getting started, but look where I can go.
Yeah. And that's the one thing is, I've had an amazing career so far. Again, it's been almost 15 years with my company. And, I started as a category manager. If you would have asked me in 2010 if I'd be where I am now, I probably would have said no. But, my goal is just to share my story and, give women kind of an idea of the career path you can have in the automotive aftermarket.
Well, I think that's great to hear. I think it's stuff that a lot of women need to hear and, to be honest, probably want to hear because there's so many out there who want to build success and stay in this industry, and seeing people pave the way definitely makes it a little easier, makes it feel like it's attainable. So Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I know it's a little early. We're shooting this a little early in the morning, but we really appreciate your time. And this has been the Women at the Wheel podcast. I'm Emma Henderson with Aftermarket News. Have a great day.